The arrogant millionaire thought about humiliating a black judge in court, but bitterly regretted it. The story begins with the arrival of Bernard Montclair, a real estate tycoon whose name resonates throughout elite circles. His reputation for colossal wealth and inordinate ambition precedes him. He is the man we fear and envy, a man for whom the rules seem made to be bent, and whose money has always opened the doors he wanted to pass through. His arrival in the courtroom is a spectacle in itself. His perfectly polished shoes hit the floor with authority, his impeccably tailored suit seems sculpted to impress. Around him, murmurs rise. He is a man we respect, perhaps out of fear, but also out of admiration. Those around him, his lawyer, his advisors, are only obedient shadows, following their boss's every gesture, every look with a deference that borders on adoration. Montclair's lawyer, a pale and nervous man, walks beside him, constantly adjusting his glasses, a scribbled notebook in hand. It seems almost invisible next to the grandeur of Montclair, whose aura crushes everything in its path. The lawyer knows what he has to do: obey. Montclair does not tolerate failure, and he never forgives missteps. That day, he was there for a simple formality, in her eyes. After all, he does not see the court as a place of justice, but as a temporary obstacle to overcome. The accusations against him, tax fraud, illegal land exploitation, do not matter to him. His money and his connections will offer him a favorable outcome. Nothing could distract him from this conviction. In the courtroom, Bernard Montclair enters with calculated slowness, ensuring that every movement captures attention. Looks turn towards him, some admiring, others full of suspicion. But it is Clarice Beaufort, the chief judge of the Court of Appeal, which immediately attracts attention. Clarice doesn't need to try to be noticed. It naturally is. His gaze is firm, his attitude calm and implacable. She is a black woman in her 40s, recently promoted to this prestigious position, a first in the history of this court. She obtained this position through her intelligence, her integrity and her ability to remain calm in the face of storms. She never needed to conform to the expectations of others to assert herself. Clarice observes Montclair with a keen eye as he takes his seat. She doesn't get distracted by his fancy clothes or the palpable arrogance that emanates from him. His only concern is to ensure that justice is done, without compromise. She sits behind her desk, her face impassive, but inside she knows that this trial will be different from all the others. It is not only the law that she is defending here, but also her own heritage, that of her ancestors and all those who, like her, had to fight to obtain the respect they deserved. The trial begins. The accusations are clear. Bernard Montclair is accused of tax evasion and illegal land exploitation. The question is not whether he is guilty or not. The evidence is overwhelming, but how far he can use his influence to protect himself.
But Clarice Beaufort don't give in.
She knows that her role is to do justice, and not to satisfy the ambitions of a man like Montclair. From day one, Bernard begins to test the limits of his authority. "I hope you don't make this trial personal, Madam Judge," he said mockingly, a smug smile on his lips. His gaze slides over Clarice as if he judges her incapable of handling a matter of this magnitude. "After all, this kind of procedure isn't really up to you, is it? You're just a simple black judge, and these kinds of cases are reserved for people like me." Clarice looks at him, without flinching. She knows exactly what he's trying to do: provoke her, publicly humiliate her. But she doesn't give in. She doesn't show any emotion. She responds calmly, in a firm and measured voice. "This trial is not personal, Mr. Montclair, but you seem determined to make a spectacle of it. I advise you to concentrate on the facts, rather than on insinuations." His answer is short, but it is relevant. The murmurs in the room immediately quieted. Bernard, although a little destabilized, pulls himself together. This was not the reaction he expected.
E guantida confrontation, a demonstration of power.
What he gets is a relentless woman who refuses to be trapped. He realizes, perhaps for the first time in his life, that he is not facing a judge whom he can manipulate as he wishes. As the days pass, the trial becomes a battle of wills. Bernard Montclair, despite his arrogance, begins to find himself facing a wall. He tries to manipulate the situation, to seduce certain members of the jury, promising them contracts, investments, playing on his charisma and his reputation as a great businessman. He deploys his charm like a weapon, thinking that his money and influence will be enough to break Clarice's authority. He openly mocks her, calling her a simple black judge who does not understand the issues of the business world, emphasizing her inability to understand the complexity of her transactions and her network of influence. Clarice, however, keeps calm, implacable in the face of attacks. She lets each insult pass without an ounce of weakness. Each provocation from Montclair is another blow that bounces off his armor of integrity. Instead of focusing on personal attacks, she delves into the facts, the law, and the evidence. She knows that this is not just a trial against Montclair, but a trial against the powers of injustice. A trial for all those who had to fight to be heard, for those who were silenced by men like him. She quickly understands that it is not just the law that is at stake here, but also her own dignity, and that of those who have carried her this far. The weight of history weighs on his shoulders. Every time Bernard tries to destabilize her, she thinks of her family, of her ancestors, of all the people who have been treated as invisible. This trial is for them. It's for her. It's for justice. While Bernard Montclair continues his provocations, his subtle attacks and his attempts at manipulation, Clarice Beaufort makes a decision which marks a turning point in the trial. Aware that she must not only judge according to the facts, but also restore the dignity of justice, she chooses to make public what is much more than a simple legal case, a fight for truth and integrity. In the corridors of the court, rumors spread about Clarice's intention to speak to the press. A slight thrill of apprehension is felt among the lawyers and spectators present, as if the air around Bernard were becoming heavier with a palpable threat. Clarice, implacable and calm, organizes a press conference outside the court, sheltered from the walls which have seen similar cases unfold, but rarely a judge so determined to expose corruption in broad daylight. The system cannot be manipulated by those who believe that their money grants them total impunity, she told reporters, her voice resonating with quiet power. Mr. Montclair does not just exploit legal loopholes, he creates them, cultivates them, and tries to impose them on those who do not have the means to fight him. This is not just tax fraud, it is a systematic abuse of power that destroys the lives of those who, like me, do not have the privileges of an inherited fortune. Clarice's gaze sweeps over the journalists, and the words she speaks strike as an undeniable truth. She then exposes the way in which Bernard Montclair pressured officials, manipulated evidence, and attempted to bribe witnesses to swing the judgment in his favor. Far from stopping at the official accusations, Clarice also reveals Montclair's hypocrisy. His carefully cultivated public image as a good man, when in reality, he was a pawn of corruption and tax evasion on a large scale. The public reacted immediately. Social networks are on fire. Newspapers are running headlines on the front page. The arrogant real estate mogul, who thought his wealth and social connections could buy everything, finds himself caught in the media storm he didn't see coming. His supporters begin to drift away, aware that his actions are now cast in a light that even his fortune can no longer eclipse. The next day, as Bernard enters the courtroom, he wears a mask of determination, but something in his eyes betrays his concern. He has become the object of pressure that goes beyond the walls of the court. But Clarice, implacable and faithful to her mission, leaves no room for manipulation. In session, she highlights all of Bernard's attempts to use his power and money to corrupt the integrity of the trial. At every attempt to divert attention, it responds with unstoppable legal precision, offering damning evidence of its misdeeds. The court is no longer just a stage of judgment, it has become a theater where the power of words and facts surpasses political maneuvering. During the final deliberation, Clarice, in a firm voice, concludes, "I want this trial to serve as an example. Money can buy privileges, protections, but truth and justice cannot be bought. They exist independently of people and circumstances. The corruption of this system, Mr. Montclair, has an end. And that end begins here." The verdict falls, and Bernard Montclair is found guilty, not only for tax evasion and illegal exploitation of land, but also for his systematic abuse of power. The room is silent, And it is in this heavy silence that Clarice makes an additional statement, a decision that is sure to further upset the mogul. She orders that funds from the confiscation of her assets be allocated to educational and support initiatives for young people from marginalized communities, particularly for young black people, who, like her, have had to fight for their place in this world. I declare that this money will be used to finance the future of those who, like me, had to fight against a system that seemed designed to crush them, she declares, her eyes fixing Bernard with a look full of dignity. Because the future of justice belongs to those who cannot be bought. This gesture, modest in appearance but immense in scope, sends a clear message. Integrity and human dignity are the true powers that govern society. Bernard Montclair leaves the courtroom not only defeated but isolated. He sees his empire collapsing under the blows of the truth. His influential contacts withdrew, his contracts were cancelled, and his name became synonymous with corruption in the media. He loses his status, his power, and his influence, all because of his own arrogance. Clarice, for her part, becomes a living symbol of true justice, of that which does not bend under the weight of privileges. Her reputation strengthens, and beyond the borders of the court, she inspires thousands of people who see in her a figure of resistance. She reminds us that dignity, honesty, and integrity are the real weapons against arrogance and injustice. As for Bernard, in his solitude, he begins to understand, to his cost, that justice is not a commodity. That money can't buy everything. That the forces that govern this world are greater than he ever imagined.